If you are a motorcycle rider and you live in the Pacific Northwest, chances are you've heard of the One Moto Show. If not, let me tell you about it. It is organized by the CC Motor Cafe, a Portland-based motorcycle-themed coffee shop. If the CC's day job is that of selling coffee, its other job is to host, with a few partners, once a year and in a massive scale, one of the greatest motorcycle build and art shows there is. That's the One Moto Show. And it happens right here in Oregon, not too far from my motorcycle home base. The One Moto Show started in 2009, right in the middle of the real estate and financial crisis, and it is a once-a-year platform and space for motorcyclists to show the customizations they make to their motorcycles. It's a motorcycle show and it's an art show. I heard about it through the grapevine, but it took me a long time to make to one of these shows. 2015 was my first time, and since then I've been trying to attend every show they throw and document it. I appreciate what these many motorcycle owners and artists do to their motorcycles, and I appreciate also what the organizers of the event do. They promote art, the motorcycle culture, they celebrate the motorcycle and lots of motorcycle related stuff. Beyond enjoying these great creations, I appreciate the semi-derelict buildings where the shows happen as well. These buildings, beyond being repurposed, offer a perfect backdrop to display art in motorcycle form and function. One exception was 2020, when the show took place in Portland's Veterans Memorial Coliseum, a functional building and from a more recent time. But the Memorial Coliseum has an arena which brought flat track racing into the show itself, something the CC Motor Cafe promotes as well. Here is Thor Drake, the man behind the CC and the One Moto Show, speaking at the riders' meeting in that 2020 show. I spent a good chunk of my time watching those races in that event, to be honest with you. But that was the only year the show took place in that building. Before then, and since then, it has been on older buildings, buildings that served to a different purpose in the past, from the time when Portland had a vibrant industrial sector. After coming to these shows and having friends who bring their motorcycles to these shows, I decided I could be part of this culture. Why not, right? Cafe racers are nice, but my dirt riding roots called for scramblers and flat track styled machines, no problems. They even seem easier to build. And it's not like I had not built bikes before. After all, I transformed my 2015 CB500X into a reasonable adventure machine. Although, I have to say I built it using a well-designed kit from the guys from Rally Raid Products in England with good instructions. I'll make a video about this motorcycle, the build process of this excellent machine, and some video footage of how much fun it is to ride it. But that's for another time. So I started looking for some cheap that I could work with, classic standard motorcycle that I could build into a scrambler or, better yet, a flat tracker. Then I came across examples of Honda CX500 builds. These were inexpensive motorcycles. There is a good market of parts and accessories to help build them into cafe racers, brats, scramblers. And on top of that, it has that funky V2 motor, transversal to the frame and geared with a shaft. Just like a Moto Guzzi, but water-cooled. I found one close to me. I brought it home. Now that you know why I got this 1980 Honda CX500, In what's left of this video, I'm going to tell you more about it. Spoiler alert, I did not turn it into a project after all. So, in this video, I'll tell you why it's not the scrambler or flat tracker I envisioned. I'll describe what I've done to it. I'll tell you what are some of my favorite things about it and some of the things I dislike about it. I will finalize the video by telling my plans for it, and I will end the video sharing a few minutes of raw footage of me riding this motorcycle. As soon as I got this bike back home, I started riding it. I was surprised by how much fun it is. It's not too powerful, about 50 horsepower, similar to my CB500X, but it has a lot of character. The motor feels and sounds great, but the looks are something else. This bike is a funny looking machine in its original state. That low rear end, that chunky seat, the squareness of the tank, the tall handlebars, I don't know. It looks as awkward as a mullet hairdo. Well, a couple of days later I took it on a longer ride. I stopped on the side of the road and decided to make a video of my plans for the bike, what I would do to it. Maybe it didn't like my plans for it, because suddenly, as I was explaining what I was going to do to it, the motor stopped. Then it would not start. Yeah, let me stop so you guys can take a look at this machine. This large seat needs to go, this needs to go, this gigantic blinkers need to go. I think it can shed some 10 pounds of weight just on those minor things. Uh-oh. I did a quick assessment of the situation, checked the battery connection, and it was good. I checked the power, nothing. Well, since the battery was new, there's something wrong with the charging system, I thought. Well, I get it started again by pushing it down that little dirt area there. I have a feeling it will stall again, and I have the battery cover there. Let's see. It's still working. At least now I know how to get it started. I managed to bump start it by going down a ditch on the side of the road, and it barely made it home. Well, it stopped 2 blocks from my house, and I pushed it back home. I put the bike on the lift and started a diagnosis process. A few tests later, and it led me to a diagnosis I did not want to have reached. The bike had a bad stator. I did not like this diagnosis because the stator is inside the engine case, and for you to split the cases and reach the stator, you need to remove the motor from the frame. I started the work to remove the motor, and as the work progressed, I had a vision of this bike in the elevator for months, split cases laying on the bench, trying to figure out what I needed to do next. And since I can only work on some evenings and some weekends, this operation would take time, and this bike and its parts would take space in my shop. And to be honest with you, I didn't know I could go through it. Fearing it be one of those projects where guys stop halfway, usually at the disassemble stage, and then parts are spread everywhere and the project is never completed, I put it back together, found a local guy who happily did this work for me for a few $100s. I got the bike back in one piece, charging the battery properly and all, and I started riding it more and liking it more, even in its original state, minus some of the excess chrome. Well, it still has a lot of chrome. I did some regular maintenance on it, like checking the valves. If checking a stator is a major job on this bike, checking and adjusting the valves is a breeze. With the valve covers sticking out, the valves are basically begging to be worked on. I changed the fork seals as well, they were leaking, and after that I just regularly changed oil and filter. Anyway, after all of that, a few years later, here is the bike today. Intact minus the excess chrome. Yes, I did not transform it into a scrambler or flat tracker. As ugly and odd this bike looks, it is in such a great shape, I just couldn't get myself into cutting the frame of this motorcycle. I realize I can do some light modifications to a machine, but have no courage and maybe no skills or creativity either to cut a frame of an old or any machine for a specific vision. So here it is, the odd machine preserving a period of time in the motorcycle industry. And in Honda's history also. In terms of design, this thing is so ugly that it becomes interesting if not unique. In the 70s and 80s, when this bike was new, it appeared as if Honda was building a bike for each segment of the market, and probably, and it's just a wild guess, they designed the most variations of engines compared to all other motorcycle companies. As Ducati, BMW, Moto Guzzi, and Harley-Davidson, just to mention a few companies, bet in their traditional respective engine configurations, Honda had V-twins, parallel twins, inline fours, inline six, singles, four-cylinder boxers, and I may have forgotten some, but it also had this unique transversal V-twin. Honda even built a turbo version of this motor. And although people call the CX500 a copy of the Moto Guzzi V-twin transversal, and, well, it is sort of a copy, we have to be reminded that the CX500 is water-cooled, and only this year, I'm talking 2023 here, you'll be able to buy a Moto Guzzi that is water-cooled. More on this later on this video, actually. Meanwhile, halfway through my slow thinking process about what to do to this motorcycle, Indian came along and launched a ready-made flat tracker replica. And I got one. I'll make a video about this bike as well. Anyway, to make this long story finally short, as it should have been from the start, the bike is here, intact and original, with all the period correct accessories I took from it preserved for posterity. I'll let the next guy figure out what to do with it, whether keep it this way or transform it. All I know is I'm not gonna do it. How is it to own and ride it? Is there something I dislike about this motorcycle? Yes, but not too many. One is that it has carburetors. Although carburetors look cool, they are really a thing from the past. Both my CX500 and my Jeepster, the only carbureted vehicles I have, are hard to start after a few weeks without running them, especially in the winter. The Honda usually starts in one cylinder and then lazily brings the other one along. Yeah, it requires a tune-up. They require frequent tune-ups. A second thing I dislike is that its front disc brakes operate like they are made out of wood. The rear drums seem to stop the bike more easily. It's something that can be upgraded, of course. A third thing is about handling. If you want to get sporty with it, be careful. It's likely part of a congenital problem because, besides being old technology overall, this motorcycle was probably designed for cruising and not canyon riding. I'm sure better forks and rear shocks would make a big difference. But, well, that's it for dislikes. I could not come up with more than these 3. So let's talk about 5 things I like about this motorcycle. Number 1 is the looks. Yes, I've criticized it, but this motorcycle has grown on me. The ugly and awkward looks that frame this bike squarely, pun intended, in the 80s makes it unique in an odd way. It calls the attention wherever I'm riding it. There is always a smile or a thumbs up from someone, or someone will just come up and ask information about it. A second thing is that it has a low seat height, and so I can flat foot when riding it, which is perfect for riding in town. There are no embarrassments for me when parking it in front of my friends, especially when compared to my tall adventure machines. A third thing is the engine sounds and character. It just sounds like a motorcycle should sound. I'm a sucker for 2-cylinder motors, but this one beats most of them in terms of sound and character. A fourth positive thing about this motorcycle is that it's a Honda, and I'm not gonna tell you about being reliable. It's just that the first motorcycle I ever lusted after was a Honda Trail 70. My first motorcycle was a Honda XL250. And the motorcycle I rode when I got my motorcycle endorsement was a Honda CB400. And a fifth thing that I like about this motorcycle is its unique engine layout. I like the look of the 2 cylinders sticking out on the side of the motorcycle and the fact that it's shaft driven. So what's next for this motorcycle? I don't know, but I'll definitely not cut it. It's going to stay as is. As I mentioned before, I like its character and the sound of it. I like the engine configuration that is transversely mounted with a shaft drive. So based on that, I'm seriously considering selling it and making what I hope will be an upgrade by buying a Moto Guzzi. But not just any Moto Guzzi, but the one I mentioned before, the first water-cooled Moto Guzzi in its 100-year existence, the V100 Mandello. Let's see how the V100 will be priced in the US. If the price is right, I fear what decision I'll make. Okay, so let's take it out for a spin. Let me show you some footage of me riding the CX500, and in the end of this footage, I'll show you a 0 to 60 launch in the CX500. Thank you for watching this video. See you soon. This is a Honda CX500 Deluxe. It's a 1980 with about 40,000 miles on the clock. In reasonable shape. I bought it for a project and decided to keep it this way. Thank you.